In 1986, an entire city was evacuated overnight after a reactor exploded just miles away. The apartment buildings are still furnished. The schools still have textbooks on the desks, but no one lives there anymore. And it's not the only place this has happened. This is worth knowing. Pripyat was founded in 1970 to house workers at the Chernobyl nuclear power plant. By 1986, nearly 50,000 people lived there. Engineers, families, children. It was a modern Soviet city built around one industry. At 1:23 a.m. on April 26th, reactor number 4 exploded during a safety test. The blast released radioactive material across the region. For the next day, residents weren't told the full extent of what had happened. On April 27th, buses arrived. Authorities announced a temporary evacuation. People were told to take documents and essentials. They would return soon. They never did. Radioactive contamination made long-term habitation unsafe. Pripyat was sealed inside what became the Chernobyl exclusion zone. Today, apartment blocks still stand. Classrooms still hold books. The amusement park's Ferris wheel was assembled for a May Day celebration that never happened. Pripyat wasn't abandoned because it ran out of resources or jobs. It became unlivable in hours, the result of a technological failure and delayed transparency. It's a reminder that modern cities depend on systems most residents never see. And when those systems break, the city itself can vanish almost overnight. Hashima Island sits about 15 kilometers off the coast of Nagasaki. In the late 19th century, coal was discovered beneath the seabed nearby. Mitsubishi purchased the island in 1890 and transformed it into an industrial outpost. Over time, seawalls were built, high-rise concrete apartments went up, and schools, shops, and communal bathhouses were added. By the 1950s and early 1960s, more than 5,000 people lived there, packed into just 16 acres. At its peak, Hashima was one of the most densely populated places on Earth. Everything on the island revolved around coal. The mines ran deep beneath the ocean floor. Workers descended daily into shafts cut under the seabed. But by the early 1970s, Japan had shifted from coal to petroleum. The mine became economically obsolete. In 1974, Mitsubishi shut it down. Within months, the population dropped to zero. There was no gradual decline, no decade-long unraveling. The company simply closed the operation, and residents left. Without maintenance, the concrete structures began to deteriorate. Salt air and typhoons accelerated the decay. Windows shattered, stairwells collapsed. Entire apartment blocks hollowed out. Today, Hashima stands as a concrete shell rising from the sea. Unlike Pripyat, it wasn't rendered unlivable by contamination or disaster. It became unlivable because the industry that sustained it disappeared. Hashima is a reminder that some cities aren't built to endure. They're built to serve a single purpose. And when that purpose ends, the city ends with it. At its peak, more than 30,000 people lived inside a space smaller than 7 acres. Kowloon walled city stood in Hong Kong, technically outside full British colonial jurisdiction and largely beyond direct Chinese control. For decades, it existed in a legal gray zone. What began as a fortified outpost evolved into something else entirely. By the 1980s, it had become one of the most densely populated places on Earth, an estimated 1.2 million people per square kilometer. Corridors were narrow. Sunlight rarely reached the lower levels. Electrical wiring ran exposed. Plumbing was improvised. Factories, clinics, restaurants, and families operated side by side inside the same compressed space. It was vibrant, but it was also unstable. Fire risk was constant. Infrastructure was inconsistent. There was no practical way to modernize it safely. In 1993, after negotiations between Britain and China, the city was demolished and residents were relocated. Kowloon didn't empty because of contamination or economic collapse. It ended because its density and improvisation had outpaced any sustainable structure. It shows that a place can be full of life and still be fundamentally unlivable in the long run. In the early 1970s, Varosha was one of the most popular resort districts in the Mediterranean. Located in Famagusta on the eastern coast of Cyprus, it drew hundreds of thousands of tourists each year. High-rise hotels lined the beach. International celebrities visited. The local economy revolved around tourism. In July 1974, following a coup in Cyprus backed by the Greek military junta, Turkey launched a military intervention on the island. As Turkish forces advanced toward Famagusta, residents of Varosha fled. Many believed they would return once the fighting ended. They never did. The area was fenced off and placed under Turkish military control. For decades, entry was restricted. Buildings were left exactly as they were. Hotels still face the sea. Apartment blocks still contain furniture. Shop windows still display products from 1974. Unlike Pripyat, Varosha wasn't contaminated. Unlike Hashima, it didn't lose its industry. Unlike Kowloon, it wasn't structurally impossible to sustain. It was abandoned because of a political stalemate that never fully resolved. Varosha shows how a city can become unlivable not because it collapses, but because it's caught in something larger than itself. War doesn't always destroy a place. Sometimes it simply freezes it in time. Plymouth was the capital of Montserrat, a small British territory in the Caribbean. It housed the island's government offices, businesses, and most of its infrastructure. In 1995, the long-dormant Soufriere Hills volcano began erupting. At first, activity was sporadic. Residents evacuated and returned more than once. But in 1997, major eruptions sent pyroclastic flows, fast-moving clouds of ash and superheated gas, into the city. Large sections of Plymouth were buried. Ash collapsed roofs. Entire neighborhoods were engulfed. The southern half of the island was declared an exclusion zone. The government relocated north. Thousands left Montserrat altogether. Plymouth didn't collapse from industry or conflict. It became unlivable because the land itself changed. Today, parts of the city remain sealed beneath hardened volcanic debris. It is still the official capital, but no one lives there. It's a reminder that even modern cities remain subject to forces far older than any system built to protect them. Cities are built to feel permanent. Pripyat, Hashima, Kowloon, Varosha, Plymouth, each was full of life at one point. Different causes, different countries, the same result. Something changed, and people didn't come back. If you find places like this worth knowing, subscribe. There's more.